Good morning, good morning, good morning. If you are tuning into our replay, good morning. If you are just tuning in, hello there, nice to see you. Hello everyone, going live now with our Mobility Magic session at 11:30 on a Monday morning. Hello if you're on the East Coast and tuning in right now. Hello on the West Coast if you're a little bit earlier in the morning. How's it going everyone? Good morning. Hello, hello. So today we're going to focus a little bit on hips, adductors, and a little bit of low back. And if we have any time at the end, which we might do, hopefully we can have some time for the neck as well. So hey everyone, if you're in Toronto as well, hello. I will give it a minute or so and then I'll turn off the comments because I got really distracted by everyone's interaction. But if you would like to leave some feedback for us at the end of the session, hi to Montreal too, you can do that on the reposted the video that we leave every week. And also if you're interested in covering some of the other sessions we've done on hip, back, quad, shoulder, etc., I like to post them every week. You can refer back to those over the previous weeks, and obviously we'll cover that content again at some stage too every Monday at 11:30. Hello to Edmonton. And yeah, as I say, today we're going to focus a little bit on the adductors and we're going to focus a little bit on the low back. We'll integrate that a little bit, and if we have any time at all at the end, we'll do a little bit of neck work as well, which is awesome. So going to turn the comments off now. Great to see you all. Again, if you want to leave any feedback, if you have any requests of mobility stuff that you'd like us to cover, feel free to leave them in the comment section of the video afterwards, not in the actual video in live time. So I'm just going to turn the comments off. You're going to need a lacrosse ball, a foam roller, and then I think that should be it. And if obviously, well, if you have any mobility restrictions or contraindications for things you shouldn't be doing with your wrists or shoulders, you may also need a yoga brick as well if you have one, so one of those foam yoga bricks. So without further ado, we're going to start off the same way we always do, and that's a check-in to see where we're at. Grab your lacrosse ball, we're going to stand up. I'm going to move back a little bit just to make sure that I'm in frame. I'm going to start off today, because we're doing the adductors, which run up the inside of our thighs. It's always good, like we always do, just to do a check-in with the feet, because that is a common connection and can often help release some tension on the inside of our thighs. So let's start off on our right foot. If you're mirroring me, and obviously it's Instagram, so you can do your left foot because it flips it. We're going to start off just below our big toe. So again, we always like to do this first because this seems to be the most common thing which people feed back to me about. I have tension in my feet, I do the feet first, I feel great, this helps me to cure a few issues I have with my tension. So again, really nice place to start. We're just moving backwards and forwards a little bit below the big toe, just below the knuckle of the big toe, just to kind of see how our tension feels. And this is the area that gets most affected by the tension we get on the inside of our thigh along the adductors that run all the way up to the groin area. So we're just focusing on that first. We'll work our way into the middle of the foot. We're just below the middle three toes, just to kind of see where you feel right there. Again, our attention today is the adductors, so let's just kind of work on that foot as well. And we don't want too much pressure. So just as a reminder, we're probably looking for about 6 or 7 out of 10 in terms of pressure. Not too much. We're not looking for pain. We're just trying to get a little bit of that tension out of the foot to just make our other stretches and mobility sequences with a foam roller and so on a little bit more effective. So let's do a little bit of a circle this time. Something we haven't done before in session. We're just going to do some circles. And when you get to that, just where the heel is, where a lot of people get that plantar fasciitis kind of build up, go a little bit more gently. Okay, so just ease off a little bit, a 5 or a 6. Not too much tension. We're not looking to bruise the feet, okay? So let's move across to the other foot. We're gonna again start with the just below the big toe. So we're just below the knuckle. We're not on the knuckle, we're not on the toe. We're just gonna put a little bit of pressure downwards into that foot. And we're just gonna go backwards and forwards along the inside of that foot. Just on that medial edge, just to kind of see how it feels. If there's any tenderness, if that, some people actually feel it all the way up into their adductors as they do this part. So just kind of see how you feel, okay? And we're just gonna go backwards and forwards. We're just gonna see how that foot feels, if there's any tension build up. Again, try and get 7 or 8 out of 10 in terms of pressure, no pain or discomfort. Okay, so now we're just kind of rolling the foot a little bit, just to kind of see, you know, how the middle of our foot feels, and if there's any areas at the back towards our heel which kind of feel caught up. And if you need to spend a little bit longer, this is a great way to start and finish your day, just rolling out your feet, especially if you have any, and I appreciate a lot of people aren't going to the office and wearing heels at the moment, but if you wear heels during the day, or any sized heel on the back of your shoe, you want to make sure that you are releasing the plantar fascia on the bottom of your foot each day, because that can be a real area of tension and feeds back into your gastroc and soleus as well, the calf muscles. So, okay, so let's get rid of the ball for now. We're going to move down to the floor now, and we're actually going to come down to a sequence which we cover off regularly. We're going to cover it in brief today, so we're going to do a little bit of our core 4 sequence, but just the first component. So, I'd like to do a little bit of a check-in. We are doing our adductors, but we're going to get into the hips a little bit first. And where we like to start with this is just a check-in position, shoulder width with your feet slightly pointed out, shoulders and hands behind us pointing away, and we're just going to rotate and do a little bit of a shin box just to see how our hips feel. If there's one side that's tighter than the other, if you've been sat down a lot, if you haven't moved a lot, if you need a little bit of assistance getting these hips to function properly, this can be really helpful. So for myself, feeling a little bit tighter than I normally would on my right side, so why don't we start there? You can mirror me. We're just going to come into a little bit less than a 90-90, and as I say, today we're going to do this in brief so we can cover some other stretches. So where you want to be with this one is pointing directly towards me. We're slightly less than what would be referred to as a 90-90 or a pigeon pose, and we'll have our hands at either side of our knee just to stabilize, and we're going to stretch up to the ceiling. Imagine there's a piece of string through your head, stretching up, make your spine nice and tall, and then we're coming over our knee, stretching our head as far as we can, our chin's coming down, and then it's rolling up the chest. Take a nice deep breath in, coming down, rolling back, up our chest, and back to our start position. We're going to do that a few more times. Deep breath in this time. Breathing out, rocking back, and let's just do that one more time. Okay, so let's just wind the hip up a little bit. Again, we're looking to get the hip warmed up because that's directly going to affect it's going to help us be more effective with our adductor stretches. So again, I've wound the tissue up just by turning my body away from my hip, and I'm going to keep my hands placed either side of my knee just for support. Deep breath in. I'm going to do one more, stretching all the way up, and breathe out. Excellent. So let's just turn our body again. So we're just going to come around a little bit more. Go as far as you can. If you feel that this is about the limit for you, then you probably want to stop here. You could break it down to lots more segments, and you can also do this as many times as you need to in each position. And we're going to turn a little bit, and we're doing the same thing. So again, four repetitions of this. Keep it nice and dynamic. Deep breath in. Deep breath in, stretching up to the ceiling, stretch out as far as you can over that knee, and then rock back up the chest, and back up the chest. Excellent. So again, we're just doing the first part of what we refer to as our core 4 that we've covered many times in many weeks. So you can obviously go back to the previous week's videos where we've done hip sequences if you would like a little bit of a refresh of the whole sequence. We're just covering the first part today. So nice stretch position, again in that less than 90-90. My left hip is also very tight today, so I'm gonna make sure I spend as equally long on this side. Again, hands either side of the knee for stability. Nice stretch up to the ceiling, stretch your head out, deep breath in. Rocking over the knee, deep stretch, or nice tall stretch up, sorry, and breathe out. And we're stretching over the knee as far as we can go, and then back again. Deep breath in. Rocking up the chest. And it's always that rolling wave-like stretch that we're looking to achieve on this one. Just move around so you can see me. And we're going to turn slightly, hands at either side of the knee, and same thing. So nice deep stretch on this one. So deep breath in. back up, deep breath in, rolling up the chest, and again, excuse the issues with the lighting on this video, and deep breath in. Awesome. So again, as many times as you need to. You could do 4 in each session, 5, 6 repetitions, whatever you need. You could even come down and do some small waves just to capture any tissue that's kind of caught up. We're just going to come around one more time just to get this last little section of the hip that's kind of caught up. And again, if you have any contraindications of low back issues, then you may want to avoid this. We're going to try and include some low back stretches for people who want to go a little bit further later on. So again, either side, on the other side of the knee this time. Nice deep breath in. Coming down, just reaching our chin away, up the chest, reaching up and away, rocking back, keeping your arms straight, and one more time for this one, deep breath in, and down, okay? So come back to center, let's just do a check-in, just see if that helped loosen our hips up a little bit. Again, shoulder width apart, toes pointing slightly out, just seeing how that shin box just helps us, and see if that has improved this initial position just to kind of loosen the hips. So second thing you need is a foam roller. So we're going to come onto or come into an adductor roll. If you don't have a foam roller, you can come into a frog stretch as well if you know that one. But we're going to start with the foam rolling, the adductor. So I'll try and get into a position where you can see me. I'll try and change if it's not quite the right view. And what we're going to do is we're going to slightly raise our hip up so we can rest our weight into the foam roller. And we want to angle the foam roller slightly away from us so that we're across the foam roller. Now this one's going to be a case of find the sweet spot for you, and the sweet spot is going to include the position where the foam roller is in terms of the muscle belly of the adductors, of which there's a few which are going to be affected by this roll. And the second thing is to decide how much pressure you need, so like a 6 or a 7 out of 10, because that's subjective. And then the other thing you'll need to decide is how much weight you put into this area, how high your foot is, and what position feels comfortable for you, because for some people they're going to want to be a little bit more upright, some people are going to be right down on the floor. So we're just going to start with a little bit of a roll just to see where that tension is in the adductor. Okay, and again, I'll change positions in a second so you can see a little bit better from a couple different angles. But we're just rolling backwards and forwards. We're just going to see if we can catch any tissue, whether it's better to be further away, so more distal from the attachment, or more proximal to the hip, where we're a little bit closer. And I'm just going to turn towards you so you can see, because we're going to change this a little bit in a second once we're in position. So again, I'm at a slight angle with the roller. I'm just coming backwards and forwards a little bit. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my foot as a rudder, because I'm just going to lift it slightly to see how that affects the rotation of my hip. Because if you're caught up right in the actual hip socket, these can be really good ones to do just to try and increase that rotation of the hip itself and decrease some of the discomfort that you get after you've been sitting a while. So we're lifting up. Now what I want you to do is I want you to push that heel into the ground. So you're pushing down, 1, 2, 3, and now we're lifting up. You may find a little bit of cramping in the actual socket itself, where the musculature around the hip is just trying to compensate for that movement. So pushing down, 1, 2, 3, lifting the heel up a few times. Awesome. Let's roll it backwards and forwards, just trying to help it release a little bit. And let's just settle in a position which is slightly higher up the hip than it was before. And we're just going to lift again. So lift, lift, and lift. And now let's push down. 1, 2, 3. And again, 1, 2, 3. And push down. 1, 2, 3. Wicked. Okay, so we've done our right hip. Let's move on to our left hip. I'm going to assume the same position I was in, because I think most people probably would have got the position I'm in right now. Again, could be up to about 90 degrees with the foam roller. We're at a slight angle. So coming up, finding that sweet spot for you. Could be closer to the actual hip, or it could be slightly further away. It depends upon how much tension you have in the actual hip socket and how much range of motion you have the actual hip itself. So just going to show you a little bit. I am probably stuck a little bit more proximal to the hip this time. So we're going to roll a little bit just to kind of hydrate that tissue. That is one reason you may want to do foam rolling. So it's going to help to loosen up the area. Unfortunately, it doesn't cause tissue changes long term, but it will help you mobilize in the short term. So it takes a lot of effort to make a tissue change, but this is going to help hydrate the area. This is going to help you gain short-term mobility gains. So just a little bit of a roll. Now we're going to do that foot lift that we did before, so just assume a position which is comfortable. And again, if you need anything underneath your elbows, a yoga mat, yoga brick is useful. So we're just going to lift this leg 3 times, and now we're going to push that heel into the ground. 1, 2, 3. We're going to lift 1, 2, 3, and we're going to push down. 1, 2, 3. So we're going to roll up just a little bit higher, just increase the tension a little bit. And we're going to lift 1, 2, and 3. Just increase the rotation, pushing down to the floor. If you get any cramping, that's okay. And then we're going to go 1, 2, 3. We're going to push down. 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. Excellent. Coming off the foam roller, let's just get rid of it for a minute. And we're going to work on a little bit of adductor stretching. So we're going to start in a kneeling position. Again, if you need a foam roller, if you need something to help you with the position, so you could use a foam roller just to help yourself stay nice and tall, or a yoga brick, that also works well, or a yoga mat underneath your knees. So let's start with our right leg, or if you're mirroring me, our left leg, and we're just going to rock onto our front leg, just keeping our torso nice and tall, our head being pulled up to the ceiling by a piece of string, let's say, just being pulled all the way nice and tall. We're just going to do about 4 repetitions, and we're moving around the clock. So I want you to imagine that we're starting at 12 o'clock, moving around the clock to about, for me it would be around 1, 2, 3 o'clock. As I move around, I'm just mobilizing that hip, different positions, just getting that hip nice and warmed up, and I'm also helping to get that synovial fluid into the hip socket as I'm kind of pumping backwards and forwards, and working from that 12 to 3 position. Or if you're copying me, it could be from 12 to 9 on the other side. And when we get to about this 90-degree angle, or this open position, we're going to make a transition second to the floor, okay? So again, I'll show you a couple of different angles so you can work out exactly what I'm doing. And then once we're in this position, we're going to transfer to more of a traditional kind of goalie groin stretch. Our hands are going to come down on the floor. We're going to bring our foot out to the side. So this angle is really important. And what I want to remember is just go as far as you can go. We're not trying to force the stretch or cause any permanent damage or injury. We're just looking for a little bit of mobility. And with this one, what we're trying to do is get that hip to rotate. So if it clicks and pops, I would just be aware of, or self-aware at least of what that might be. And if it is just as common in this position, the actual ball rolling in the socket, that's not necessarily a bad thing. If you obviously have any underlying issues, then you may want to stay away from this one. So we're just rocking back, not too deep with this one, and as you get more comfortable, as that hip starts to move a little bit more, what we can do is move forward further and backward further, okay? And we're just getting into that position. Now, as you get more comfortable with this stretch, you can try and get your foot to be a little bit more flat on the floor, and that also helps with this rolling of the hip socket as we come back, okay? So, again, let's change sides. So we've done our right side, or my right side. We're now on the left side, so I'm going to come across and pursue my other leg. And we're going to start from this 12 o'clock open position, and we're just rocking forward, keeping our chest nice and tall, keeping our torso nice and upright, rocking forward, just stretching out the hip, just loosening up the ball and the socket on this side that we're moving, just getting a kind of passive stretch as well. Okay, not going too fast, just dynamically moving around, working my foot all the way around to about 3 o'clock. Now, also to mention that if you have any issues getting to about 3 o'clock, stay where you are. Just go as far as you can. Don't need to force it, okay? Awesome. So now we're in position. Just see when you're ready. We'll make that transition to the other position, okay? So foot's come down. We're just gonna start to rock a little bit. Keep your foot kind of pointing towards you at first. And we're just gonna rock backwards and forwards, just to try and get that ball to move in the socket. And I'll turn to the side a little bit so you can see, because I know some people are probably wondering how far am I going back on this one. And the answer is not too far. I'm just rocking till I feel a little bit of a rotation in the hip, till I feel a little bit of a stretch on the inside of my adductors. And that's normally as far as most people need to go, because when I get the adductors to rotate a little bit, I want to get the hip to rotate in the socket, but we don't want to come as far as the point where we're really overly stretching it and being really uncomfortable and in pain. So we're just kind of rocking back. Now bring your foot a little bit flatter. Again, move around so you can see. We're going to flatten that foot on the floor if we can, and we're going to come just a little bit deeper back into that position. See if we can get that ball to rotate in the socket, come forward a little bit further and back a little bit further, okay? Awesome. So next part, we're going to come into more of a tactical frog type position, which is a little bit deeper. If you yourself can't quite manage this position, don't worry. We'll give you kind of modifications in future, but this position will just be the end range of this stretch. And what we're trying to do is get both kind of our deep squat position without actually being in it, and we're trying to get our hips to open up as well. So it's a little bit of hip flexion extension. We're just coming back into a deep position, and then we're coming over our hands slightly just to get our hips to roll out to their furthest position as our knees are on the floor. And we're just going to rock back, and then we're going to come forward. And what should happen is, as we come to this position, you'll get a little bit of a turn in the hip all the way out. And just hold that position for a couple of seconds, pushing our knees into the floor, feeling those hips push out the front of the socket a little bit, just gently, no dislocations. And then we come back to the start position, okay? Next, we are going to come into a tall position. Just going to show you from the front and the side on this one, but a little bit of rotation is going to help that low back. So putting our hand on the floor can be nice and tall. We can even use a yoga brick if you want to put down on the floor like this. That also works. Or a foam roller, or a fist or a hand, and we're just going to rotate upwards. So we just want to open up that low back a little bit in this position, and again, you can be as deep as you want. So if you feel a little bit more open with the stretch, you can just come straight up, looking at the hand, over the top, go for the low back, go for the hip, and then we're just going to come back to the center. Just switch sides, get as far forward as you feel comfortable going. Use a yoga brick or a foam roller if you need to. Hand or fist on the floor. I like the fist to be on the floor personally. And then we're just going to rotate upwards, following that hand all the way to the ceiling. And then if you feel a little bit more stable, you can work it in towards the foot, but I prefer it a little bit wider. So feel that low back, open up a little bit, come back to the start position. Let's do the other leg again. Again, exchange, keep that foot planted. Let's use the hand or the fist or yoga brick or foam roller, and let's just open up that chest. Nice deep breath in. Stretching that hand all the way up to the ceiling, and then bring it down. Let's just do one more on this side. Rotate outwards, following that hand up with the eyes. Come back to the center again. Hand or fist on the floor. Let's rotate all the way up to the ceiling. Come back down, and one more. really opening up that hip. You can even bring that hip out to the side if you want to. Excellent. Okay, great. So now we're going to integrate a little bit of rotation in the low back. Two ways to do this, front or back. We can start off just by laying flat and bringing our leg across our body this way, and then stretching our arm away from the center line on the other side, and then just bringing this leg down. Now if you feel any pinching in the hip, what you can do is pop a foam roller underneath the knee this side, or you can prop it up with a yoga brick, and that's fine. And all we're going to do in this position is to add a little bit of rotation. Is you're going to take a breath, and as you breathe out, this leg will naturally start to float towards the floor. So we're just adding a little bit of slight downward pressure on this side. And as we feel those deep breaths kind of coming through and out, you should find a little bit of a stretch work down this spiral net across the knee, and you should find a little bit of a stretch through that hip capsule. So now we're going to rotate slightly. I'll turn a little bit so you can see, and I'm just bringing this arm out, and I'm applying a little bit of downward pressure going this way with my hand. It's just securing the leg so it doesn't flare up. Deep breath in, and as I breathe out, my leg is just sinking towards the floor. Excellent. And you can do that as many times as you need to do to get that hip to open up. Really great spiral line stretch. Always move with the breath though. With this one, you don't want to force the stretch, just always move with the breath, the exhale of the movement. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do a rotation in the low back, lying on our stomach. So commonly referred to as a scorpion. So again, if this is something that doesn't quite work for you, then feel free to leave this one out. But all we're doing is we're staying hands down on the floor or slightly up, so we're a little bit of spinal extension, and we're just going to turn our leg across, okay? So again, works a little bit better if you're nice and low. The light will probably change, but we're just turning our leg across for a little bit of stretch on the inside of the hip and low back, and then we're coming across the other side, and then we're working back again. And this can be really great in combination with a little bit of extension for that low back, or if you have any contraindications, you can stay nice and low. So we'll do a few variations. I'll take you through each. We're going to stay nice and low for the first one, and we're going to bring our right leg across our low back on the other side. Going to hold it, so nice deep breath in, and let that leg sink. Deep breath in. Breathe out, let that leg sink. Bring it back to the midline, and let's do it again on the other side. So we're coming across, breathing in, breathing out, let that leg sink. Always breathing into our stomach, and then we're going to come back. And let's add a little bit of extension if you can this time. Bring that leg across. Work your hands in or your elbows, whichever feels comfortable. Going to start on our right side this time. Bring that leg across, deep breath in. Always breathing into that diaphragm, because that's really what's going to help us to change into that parasympathetic nervous system when it comes to these stretches. So we're going to turn this way a little bit. Breathe, breathe, breathe. Feel a little bit of a stretch in your low back, maybe even on the front of your body as well. And we're just going to rotate back to the middle, just see how you feel. So come back up onto your hands, a little bit of a low back stretch, just to kind of weed out any tight spots that are still there. Let's do a quick check-in with our hips, just to see where we're at, see if we need any further work. You can go back through the whole routine. I'm going to post it up again for people to review this week. If you have any feedback, just turn the comments on. Again, if you have any feedback or any questions, feel free to post them in the the actual video that we post afterwards, because we don't get to see anything that you write on these sessions, unfortunately, after we've finished the videos. But we always love to hear from you, because what you tell us, what we do on a regular basis, and what you feed back to us will actually help shape the sessions going forward. So I'm glad to hear you feel great. Again, if you have any questions, if there's any way that we can help you directly, feel free to reach out to myself. I actually have a few spots for personal training as well, so you can reach out to me and engage as well. And if you have anything we can do to help you going forward, feel free to reach out to us. Always great to see the regulars. Thanks so much for your time, and I'll post the video straight afterwards for you all. Thanks guys, see you soon.